Welcome to Revenza Tales, where betrayal and brutal comebacks set your soul on fire. Smash subscribe, ring the bell, and pass to friends who battle for their truth. Picture your family wiping you from existence, making the world think you eloped when you were forgotten in a hospital bed. How far would you go to reclaim your name? Grasp for a story of lies, survival, and unbreakable will. My name is Quinn Campbell, and the evening I appeared at my sister Claire's engagement party, the Springfield Elks Lodge stopped dead in its tracks like I had risen from the dead. The conversation died. Champagne flutes fell silent, all eyes on me. My mother, Diane, held a flute grasped in her hand, manicured nails quivering against the glass. My father, Benjamin, sat stiff at the head table, his accountant's mask of composure breaking into panic. Claire, golden, untouchable Claire, released her fiancé's hand during toast, her influencer smile slipping like it had been slapped from her face. I wasn't supposed to be here. They'd lied to all the people, told them I'd left, a lost cause who couldn't cope with life. But I hadn't left. I was in a hospital bed, forgotten as they pretended to mourn. I moved further into the room, boots hitting the shining floor, allowing the silence to strangle them. Then I talked, loud enough for the whole of Springfield to hear. You lied to them and told them I had run away. A murmur of shock moved through the crowd. A fork clattered on the floor. But I was in a hospital, I continued, steadying my voice though my chest was burning with it. And I remember everything. Growing up in Springfield, Illinois, my life was a balancing act on a tightrope of Diane's demands. Her catering company turned our Elm Street home into a showroom, each party a stage to demonstrate we were flawless. Her rosemary bread filled the air with its scent, but it was tainted with tension. She'd clean counters until knuckles were white, grumbling I never did it right. I was 19, dividing my time between community college and night shifts at Rosie's Diner on Route 66, scraping tips for books. I wasn't perfect, but I was trying. Something Diane never appreciated. She'd lash out over a dish in the sink, her words slicing like glass. Quinn, why can't you be more like Claire? My sister, 2 years older, was the star, her Instagram photos amassing likes. When she wrecked Dad's sedan into a neighbor's fence, Diane called it youthful spirit, baking her favorite lemon bars. When I neglected to fold laundry, I was lazy, ungrateful, a letdown. Benjamin did not help, cowering behind spreadsheets, shirking Diane's anger, leaving me to ride out the storm alone. That evening at the party, I beheld the guilt in their faces, hidden beneath fabrications. Claire's engagement was Springfield gossip, Pinterest perfect with fairy lights and a dessert table plucked directly from a magazine. Cousins, neighbors, even Pastor Mike from First Baptist drank Prosecco, wishing her well. They didn't know I'd lain in a coma for weeks. My name changed to Jane Doe as my family pretended I'd walked away on my own. I stood, heart racing, experiencing every call that had been ignored, every fib they'd spun. Diane took a trembling step closer to me, voice reed thin. Quinn, you look fine. I smiled, pointed and intentional. You told them I was unstable, that I'd left in shame. The group shifted, muttering hum. Benjamin cleared his throat. His cue to wrap it up. Quinn, not now. Oh, now's precisely the time, I interrupted, cutting through the room with my voice. I turned to the guests, their faces a combination of confusion and intrigue. They didn't lose me. They erased me. Want to hear what actually transpired? I left the question in the air, making my family squirm, knowing this was just the start. I still remember the rosemary bread from our Springfield kitchen, inaccessible like Diane's approval. Our home was lacquered to conceal cracks within the family. Diane was a whirlwind of domination, giving orders. Quinn, set the table correctly. God, do you ever hear me? It didn't make any difference if I earned an A or worked a double at Rosie's. I came up short. She'd clean counters 3 times a morning, eyes flicking to me as if I were a stain. You're so ungrateful, she'd say, the words a slap. Do you know how much effort I put into keeping this family together? I wanted to yell I was tired of trying, but I nodded, swallowing pain. Benjamin was a specter, his glasses showing numbers he loved more than us. Claire coasted by, charm winning Diane's approval. When she ran up Dad's sedan, Diane laughed, baking lemon bars. My 15-minute curfew misdemeanor got me a lecture that reduced me to tears. Claire would toss her hair and say, Quinn, just relax. It's not a big thing. But it was. All the double standards stacked up until I felt waterlogged. I wasn't mad then, just bone-weary. At 19, juggling college and diner work, I fantasized about getting out of here. A new life in Chicago. But day by day I chipped away, getting smaller, thinking I was the issue. The breaking point happened during a fight. Diane, standing in the kitchen, catering menu spread out on the counter, face pinched, snapped. "Quinn, you're wasting your life working at that diner. Waitressing is no future." I attempted to explain college, grades, save tips, but she cut me off. "You're a shame to this family." The words sting hard. Perhaps because I was tired. My fingers trembled as I stuffed on my jacket, the porch light blinding as I slammed out. I had to get out, a couple of blocks to shake my head. I'd return before she even knew it. The streets of Springfield were empty, the late fall bite bitter. My exhalation misted as I walked by the abandoned gas station on Route 66, its neon sign dark. Diane's words cycled. Failure. Burden. I turned a corner, sneakers scuffing, when headlights cut through the dark. Too bright, too fast. I froze, heart lurching, no time to move. The impact was fire exploding through me. Hot, sharp, then black. I woke to a wrong world. White ceiling, stiff sheets, mouth like sand. Wires snaked from my arms to beeping machines. A nurse leaned over, voice soft. "Hey, you're awake. You're at Springfield Memorial. You've been out a while." I tried speaking, throat raw like I'd screamed for hours. "You were in a hit and run," she said, eyes kind but guarded. "No ID. You've been here almost 3 weeks." 3 weeks? Someone had to be looking. Diane, Benjamin, Claire. But her face said otherwise. No visitors, no calls, no flowers. They listed me as Jane Doe, ran an ad in the Springfield Register. Unidentified woman found unconscious on Route 66. No one answered. I was alone, a blank slate in a hospital bed. No idea who I was or why no one visited. Days blurred. White walls. Beeping machines. I was a puzzle with gaps, learning to hold a spoon, walk without stumbling. Nurses' condescension hurt. They eyed me like a lost cause, a Jane Doe nobody owned. Glimmers came, rosemary bread, a shrill voice, a slamming car door, but they slipped through my fingers like dreams. The doctors called it retrograde amnesia. They said my memories might come back, or they might not. I spent days staring at Springfield's gray skyline through the hospital window, wondering who I'd been, why no one missed me. Then one night, everything changed. A nurse left the TV on, some old music channel playing Fleetwood Mac's Landslide. The melody hit like a current, pulling something loose inside me. I glimpsed a kitchen counter, a toast plate, the rings of Diane clattering as she slapped it onto it. Her voice sliced in, "You're pathetic, Quinn." And then more. Claire's giggle, Dad's quiet, the chill on my skin as I stepped out that evening. Headlights, moving too quickly, too brightly. My body jerked, heart monitor screaming. The nurse burst in, inquiring if I was all right. I recalled something, I breathed, voice trembling. Not with terror, but with something fiercer, keener. The next day, a therapist sat with me, her voice gentle, urging me to let memories come slowly. But they didn't. They crashed in like a storm. Every fight with Diane, every shift at Rosie's diner, every time Claire got away with everything. Then the worst, the face behind the wheel. Claire, my sister, eyes wide, mouth open like she was yelling, her influencer hoodie glowing in the headlights. I saw cans of beer at her friend's party a little while before, how she'd staggered out to Dad's car, how Diane had let her drive anyway. And then Dad's voice, cold and low from a memory I hadn't stored away. "Don't say a word, Claire. She shouldn't have been out there." They knew it was her. And they let me lie in that hospital bed, wiped clean as if I were nothing. The betrayal seared, transmogrifying loneliness into fury. I wasn't only a victim. I was a truth they could no longer bury. The truth struck harder than the car. When I was in Springfield Memorial, learning to walk again, my family re-scripted my life. Diane fabricated that I'd experienced a mental breakdown, stormed out of the house during an argument, too fragile to remain. Her tale was so believable, neighbors believed it. Quinn, the troubled one, left barefoot, refusing assistance. They stood a vigil at First Baptist, candles burning as Diane wiped away tears for the audience. Claire spoke, voice heavy with manufactured tears. "Quinn, where you are, we just want you safe." Safe, While I was attached to machines, my name reduced to Jane Doe. They were at the Lake Springfield cabin, laughing, getting family pictures taken without me. They gave away my clothes, packed up my books, cleaned my room like I had never been there. I saw a picture later on Claire's Instagram. A beautiful photo of her, Diane, and Benjamin at the lake, all smiling. The caption was, "Family time heals all." It was taken weeks after the accident, when I was still Jane Doe, in a hospital bed in another part of town. They weren't mourning, they were relieved. Diane might concentrate on her catering empire without my failures holding her back. Benjamin could remain hidden behind spreadsheets, evading my queries. Claire could maintain her influencer sheen, likes piling up without me in her meticulously filtered life. I didn't belong, and they were better without me. The discovery hurt more than Diane's words had ever done. I sat in my hospital bed, holding discharge papers, gazing out at Springfield's skyline through a dirty window. Nurses ceased expecting visitors, their sympathy giving way to quiet acquiescence. When they came to Diane, she didn't answer the phone. The social worker's tone was gentle but weighted. "Your mother told us you ran away, that you've always had problems. They don't want to have anything to do with you." I wanted to yell, rip the 4 out of my arm, rage up to Elm Street. I sat instead, the truth descending like ash in my lungs. They hadn't abandoned me, they'd wiped me out. But I wouldn't remain wiped out. I'd return, and they'd listen to every sentence. I believed I'd been forgotten when Aunt Linda appeared in my hospital room on a rainy afternoon. Aunt Linda, Diane's older sister, a librarian with a warm smile and eyes that could see through deception, had been my sanctuary during childhood. Summer vacations at her home meant library outings, lemon bars, no screaming, no eggshells. She seemed exhausted now, graying hair slicked back, but her hug was genuine, grounding me. "I never believed them, Quinn," she said, sitting on the vinyl couch against the window. Rain pattered on the glass as she took my hand, the first caress that wasn't pity in months. "They said you took off, that you weren't stable. I knew it wasn't so. Linda told me everything." Diane spun a story for the whole town. Cousins, church friends, even the mailman believed I'd had a breakdown, left in the night. When Linda asked why no police report, Diane snapped, told her to stop meddling. Benjamin knew Claire took his car that night. Knew she'd been drinking at a party. He instructed her to remain quiet, told me I shouldn't have been out walking so late at night wearing dark clothes, as if it were my error. Linda's voice cracked. "He said it was an accident, Quinn, but he allowed them to make you the fall guy." I laughed, a harsh hollow noise that caused her to wince. They hadn't merely lied, they'd made me a ghost, hosting fundraisers in my name while Claire put up old pictures with the caption, "Miss you, sis." All for appearances. I glanced at Linda, her hands shaking not with weakness but determination. "Can I stay with you?" I inquired, "until I sort this out." She nodded, no fear, eyes burning. "As long as you need." The first time I felt perceived, and not a ghost of their lies. I walked away from the hospital with a limp, medical reports, and a burning in my chest. I wasn't disappearing. The next time Springfield saw me, it would be on my own terms, and the town would observe. Claire's engagement party was a fairy tale from her Instagram fantasies. White linen table runners, string lights flickering above the patio at Springfield Country Club, Diane's legendary macarons piled high on a dessert table. The entire town was in attendance. Cousins, neighbors, Pastor Mike. Sipping Prosecco, wishing Claire a lifetime of happiness. I stood outside, observing through the glass, my heart steady but furious. I'd spent weeks at Linda's, regaining strength, assembling a plan. My memories were returned, jagged but sharp, and I had evidence. Hospital records, Linda's testimony, even a police report I'd uncovered regarding the hit and run, dismissed by my family. I wasn't the lost girl they'd portrayed. I was Quinn Campbell, and I was ready to destroy their lies. I shoved open the door, boots loud on the shining floor, and the room came to a standstill. This was my time. Not to plead, but to insist the truth be spoken. Instead, I sat quietly, the truth falling in ash between my lungs. They hadn't left me behind. They'd erased me. But I would not be erased. I was returning, and they would hear every phrase. I'd thought I'd been forgotten until Aunt Linda came into my hospital room on a drizzly afternoon. Diane's older sister, a librarian with a warm smile and truthful eyes, had been my sanctuary as a child. Summer at her house consisted of trips to the library, lemon bars, no yelling, no eggshells. She was tired-looking today, graying hair pulled back, but her hug was genuine, grounding me. "I never believed them, Quinn," she whispered, perched on the vinyl couch by the window. Rain tapped on the glass as she took my hand, the first grasp that wasn't pity in months. "They said you fled, that you were crazy. I knew that wasn't true." Linda explained it all. Diane fabricated a tale for Springfield. Cousins, church members, even the mailman thought I'd had a breakdown, left overnight. When Linda questioned why no police report, Diane lashed out, told her to mind her own business. Benjamin knew Claire had borrowed his car that evening. Knew she had been drinking at someone's party. He instructed her to be quiet, said I shouldn't have been walking so late in dark clothes, like I was the culprit. Linda's voice cracked. "He said it was an accident, Quinn, but he let them pin it on you." I laughed, a harsh hollow sound that made her wince. They hadn't lied, murdered me in the flesh, yes, but they'd made me a phantom, having fundraisers in my name while Claire put up old pictures saying, "Miss you, sis," all for appearances. I gazed at Linda, shaking hands not with frailty but determination. "May I stay with you?" I said, "until I get this sorted out." She didn't question, no hesitation in her eyes, her expression fierce. "However long you need." For the first time, I was noticed, not the shadow of their deception. I limped out of Springfield Memorial with medical records and a fire burning in my chest. I wasn't disappearing. The next time my family laid eyes on me, it'd be on my timeline, and Springfield would be watching. Claire's engagement party was pulled from her Instagram fantasies. White linen tablecloths, fairy lights shimmering above the patio of the Springfield Country Club, Diane's signature macarons piled high on a dessert table. The entire town was there. Neighbors, cousins, the mayor, drinking cocktails, toasting Claire's ideal life. I stood outside the gate, heart pounding like it wanted to escape. My hands were wet, gasping, but I wasn't afraid. Not anymore. I'd spent weeks at Linda's, reconstructing myself, rehearsing what I'd tell them. Tonight, I'd force them to see the truth. I entered, boots thundering on the patio stones, and head swiveling like dominoes toppling. A fork fell over. Someone breathed my name. Diane noticed me first, face pale to the hue of her tablecloths, holding onto the edge of a table. "Quinn, you're here," she breathed. Claire stopped in mid-toast, her fiancé bewildered as she released his hand. Benjamin loudly cleared his throat, his standard to close things down. "Quinn, this is not the time." "It's precisely the time," I barked, voice slicing through the whispers. I faced the crowd, their eyes open with interest. "They said I left you, that I was crazy, a mess who couldn't manage life. But I was lying in a hospital, comatose, while they acted as though I were invisible." Claire's mouth opened. "You have no idea what you're saying, Quinn." "Indeed?" I spat, fury searing every sentence. "Because I recall your face behind the wheel, Claire, the beer on your lips, the party you staggered away from." A murmur of shock ran through the guests. I whipped out my phone, hand unshaken. "You want to hear what a cover-up sounds like?" I pressed play, and Benjamin's voice boomed on the patio, slurred and deep from a voicemail Linda discovered. "Claire, keep quiet, she shouldn't have been outside." The crowd locked up, Diane put her hand over her mouth. Claire retreated, Benjamin's face turned pale. "You didn't lose me," I said, looking at them. "You erased me." I spun around and left, the quiet behind me a louder shout than words ever could. They would know this truth forever. By dawn, Springfield was abuzz. Someone had taped my presentation and the voicemail, just like wildfire. Posted on Instagram, texted to book clubs, emailed to the Springfield Register. The title read, "Local Family Concealed Hit-and-Run Truth." Claire's influencer partnerships dried up. Brands don't take kindly to inebriated drivers, particularly when the victim happened to be their sister. Benjamin was questioned for obstruction, his attorney working furiously to keep him out of headlines. Diane attempted to stage a church function for healing. Nobody came. Neighborhood people stopped smiling at her. First Baptist pews were vacant when she entered. The Campbell's immaculate facade was ash, and I felt no remorse. A week later, a letter arrived, no return address, with my name in Benjamin's tight penmanship. Inside, a check, more money than I'd ever seen, and a note, "I should have protected you." I didn't cash it. I framed the note, not for forgiveness, but as evidence they'd lost. I didn't need their money or their apologies. I needed the silence to cease, and it did. I left for Chicago, Found a job at a quaint Wicker Park bookstore, the type smelling of old pages and new beginnings. My apartment is small, creaky floors and brick alley view, but it's mine. No yelling, no eggshells. I completed my degree online, began journaling, discovered a therapist who hears me when I tell her I wasn't lost, I was erased. Aunt Linda writes postcards, farmers markets, thrift store treasures, her lemon bar recipe, on my shelf between dog-eared books. A photo remains there too. Me at 12, Claire's forced smile, Diane's perfect posture, Benjamin's stiff. I singed the edges, not to contain pain, but to recall that I made it through. The truth didn't shatter them. It freed me. I am no longer the girl who left that evening or the Jane Doe who awoke by herself. I am Quinn, and this imperfect, silent existence is sufficient. The lesson is that truth is a sword. Use it to take back your name, because no one gets to erase you without your consent. Thanks for watching Revenza Tales, where grit and victory come to life. Hit that like button, share your comeback stories in the comments, and subscribe for more epic stories. Pass it on to friends who need a spark of courage, and I'll see you in the next story.